Hey, it's another day of the Fendick Theater Experience. I'm Blake.
I'm Sydney.
Let's get to learning!
Today's performance target is we will learn a brief history about Broadway.
We often think about musicals when we think about Broadway, but it did not always used to be like that.
No, it did not. So let's get to the interesting stuff.
Broadway started a long time ago in 1750 when two men, Thomas Keene and Walter Murray, built the first ever theater.
This theater wasn't very big though. It only held around 280 people, which is pretty small compared to today's theaters.
Today's theaters hold up to mostly around 500 people. Some can even hold up to 2,000.
And that is significantly larger than the first theater.
Though Broadway got its start in 1750, it abruptly stopped because of the Revolutionary War.
It then began again in 1798, so Broadway stopped for about 23 years.
But once it started again, they built a brand new theater called the Park Theater, and that theater could hold 2,000 people.
That's more like it. The more the merrier.
Hey Sydney, do you remember when we were talking about the Globe Theater last week in the Shakespeare episode and it burnt down and they rebuilt it? So the Park Theater also burnt down. I know, rough, right? But when they rebuilt the second Park Theater, it held 4,000 people! As theaters started to take off, more theaters were being built.
These theaters started off showing Shakespearean plays and ballad operas, but then the theater slowly progressed to musical and non-musical acts.
In the 1840s, P.T. Barnum, aka The Greatest Showman, opened his entertainment complex.
If you remember from the movie, the upper class did not frequent P.T. Barnum's shows, but the working class did.
That was because there was a riot around the time the Astor Place Theater opened.
The lower class got offended by the elitist persona of the upper class, and thus a riot occurred, and that's when the true separation of classes began.
The higher class would go to the opera, while the middle class went to the melodramas, and the lower classes went to the variety shows.
Who knew The Greatest Showman was more than just a fun movie musical?
Yeah, many of you probably already know that stuff because of The Greatest Showman.
Now let's move on and get to what we've all been waiting for. The start of musicals!
Musicals started being very popular in the middle of the 1800s.
These first musicals are not how we think of musicals now though. The modern musical with singing and dancing didn't appear until 1866.
And even those musicals don't even compare to what they are now because those musicals were 5.5 hours long.
And I thought a 3-hour production was long. It's nothing compared to that.
So when we think about Broadway, we think of Broadway as just being one place.
But this couldn't be further from the truth. Broadway is a collection of around 41 theaters in New York City.
It's called Broadway because most of the theaters are all in one general area.
And this location is Midtown Manhattan in New York City.
What constitutes a Broadway theater is how many seats are in the theater, or house, so to speak. So, if a theater has more than 500 seats, it's considered a Broadway house. But if there are less than 500 seats, it's considered an off-Broadway house.
Broadway hasn't always been where it is now, though.
Oh, of course not. Broadway moved to where it was now because real estate was so cheap back in the early 1900s.
Broadway has evolved to be what it is now, but Broadway was
just the beginning. Now that you've learned about the history of Broadway with us, we want you to comment down below about your favorite fact that you learned today.
And be sure to click on our next video for the second part of choreography for Footloose.
Make sure to like and follow our Facebook and Instagram and subscribe to our channel.
Thanks for learning and creating with us.
Have a fantastic day.